My great-great-grandfather started us in the industry. The business itself was started in 1989 by my uncle. The family has been in the industry through 5 generations.
How can you leverage technology? Because there are a lot of big box retailers out there, Amazon, Home Depot and everybody. How do you compete with them?
At Central Components, to be able to compete with those bigger boys, what technology does is it allows us to reach like that playing field where the convenience factor for the customers is almost negated, right? So you have these big box companies that want to compete in the wholesale market.
Why do you think integration is critical, and how do you think that can help compete better?
I think as technology expands, you need to be able to integrate your new tools with your old ones, right? Otherwise, the efficiencies gained in those new tools are going to be lost in going back and forth between several tools, or lost in missing data because you didn't check one or the other, right? Missed opportunities, stuff like that.
How are you finding your customers at Central Components?
Trade shows, trade associations, phone books, right? They even exist anymore, but more or less that virtual phone book of just looking in an area and finding who's there and reaching out to them.
How can small businesses choose the right technology? Hello, everyone. Welcome to a new episode of Driven by DCKAP podcast. We are here in Chicago, Illinois. I'm your host, Karthik, CEO of DCKAP. We make systems talk to each other for manufacturers and distributors. In this podcast, we are going to talk about how small businesses can compete with big box retailers by leveraging technology. And to discuss this, we have with us Tighe Greenhalgh, the president of Central Components. Tighe, I hope I pronounced your name correctly.
You got it right, yeah.
Welcome to Driven.
Thanks, Karthik. Thanks for having me.
So, Tighe, I was reading about Central Components, and you are a 5th generation business. Your great-great-grandfather started the business, and you guys have been doing this for a long time. Can you tell us about the history of the company?
Sure, yeah. Well, so my great-great-grandfather started us in the industry. The business itself was started in 1989 by my uncle. The family has been in the industry through 5 generations. Central Components started off as a plumbing specialty repair part supplier, so wholesalers. And about 15 years ago, we started to see that market drop. And so 3 years ago, I bought half of the company, and we decided to expand our product offering into industrial fittings and valves.
Let's go a little deeper into that. It's very fascinating. Prior to Central Components, you were with Midland Metals, and that's also a family business,
Yes.
right?
Yeah.
And you guys got sold to private equity, and that happens a lot in family businesses. Can you tell us about that? What happened there?
Yeah. So Midland Metal, also a family company. To give some context around that, my grandfather, whose grandfather had gotten the family into the fittings industry by buying into a brass foundry. So my grandfather, he had 11 kids, 7 of them sons, and he wanted to set each of those sons up their own business. And so he would look for opportunities within his own business, whether on the supply side or the, if it was a new product line that he would want to go into, something along those lines, right? A new market he wanted to pursue. He would then set up a company with one of his sons in charge of it to do it. And so that's how Midland Metal got set up. My uncle Nick had come out of college, and my grandfather had, before he had bought his dad's company, he had bought another company around the same time that Nick was finishing college. So he sent Nick into the warehouse that he had just bought and told him to clean it up. Nick found some old marketing material for Midland Metal, which had been a metal manufacturer during World War II. And then when the war ended, they had gone out of business because they had shifted all their contracts to the government for the military. So Nick liked the name, resurrected the name, and then my grandfather had gotten into a dispute with one of his vendors, and so worked with Nick to set up that product line that he was buying from that vendor, and now that was Nick's company, and my grandfather's company was his first customer, and then he grew it beyond there. So Midland Metal had started that way. Central Components started a very similar way. And Midland Metal, Nick then sold it to his brother. He split it into 2, sold it to his brothers, Vince and Billy. And Vince and Billy operated as separate companies till 2015. And at that point, I'd started working at Midland Metal for Vince in 2013. And so brought the companies together. We merged there. And then in 2018, after 3 really good years of growth, we sold it to a private equity group in 2018.
And after 2018, you were the chief operating officer of the business, and then you were let go.
I was, yeah. So once we sold it to private equity group, Vince had stayed on as CEO. I was COO. Billy was on as marketing. We had a great team, a good dynamic. 2019, we bought 4 companies that we had transitioned onto our platform. 2019 was a busy year full of growth. And then 2020 is when COVID hit. And so second quarter of 2020 was miserable. It's probably the hardest time professionally I've ever had. Right? We saw sales drop. I think in April that year, they dropped by over 50%. I mean, it was rough. And we had private equity partner, and so we had certain leverage ratios, and we had to cut back on costs, and it was just a really tough time. 2020 was really hard for everybody, and it was really the first time that we realized we're not a family business anymore, right? And so that was tough for everyone. Vince ended up stepping down as CEO in September, and then in November, the new CEO fired me. Yeah.
But the plan was to stay on with Midland. Was that the original plan?
The plan when we first sold to private equity. So yeah, our goal was Midland Metal, we were very much driven by technology, right? And they still are. They're a great company still. And so we had seen the opportunity to maybe bring on an investment partner, use that investment to continue to grow the technology, to expand into new product lines and to serve more people better, right? And so that was the plan. And yeah, 2020 kind of put a wrench in that plan.
It's very interesting. And then from there, you got on to buy 50% of your uncle's company and Central Components. So that's how Central Components started.
Yeah. So yeah, the timing was fortunate, right? Because my Central Components is in Austin, Texas. I live in Kansas City. My uncle who owned Central Components, he came up for Thanksgiving right around the time that I had been let go and was still kind of negotiating how we would leave things, Midland and I would leave things. And so the opportunity was there. He mentioned that he had been seeing a strong change for the worse in that plumbing specialty repair part our market. So he was looking for what to do with it with his business, right? And I knew the industrial fittings and valves market well and thought there was a great opportunity. Actually, at Midland, we had built a whole suite of tools for our customers. And so the idea originally was just to start off as a customer of Midland and take advantage of all those tools that we had built and just kind of prove out. I was excited about them and wanted to show that they were a good set and that you could do a lot with them. So
yeah, it's like starting from ground zero again. So you start,
almost, yeah.
So how can you leverage technology? I mean, because there are a lot of big box retailers out there, Amazon, Home Depot and everybody. How do you compete with them and how can you leverage technology? What do you guys do and what do you do at Central Components?
Central Components, to be able to compete with those bigger boys, what technology does is it allows us to reach like that playing field where the convenience factor for the customers is almost negated, right? So you have these big box companies that want to compete in the wholesale market, and what they have is a suite of tools that makes things very easy and convenient for our customers. And what we can do is leverage technology to do the same and at least eliminate that advantage of the bigger boys.
And what kind of tools do you leverage in terms of technology?
Yeah. So CRMs, right? Our ERP is Profit 21. From that, we use HubSpot as our CRM. But so we're launching a new website. Very excited about that. And will provide more transparency to our customers, right? They'll be able to see what we have in stock. They'll be able to see when items are expected in that are maybe out of stock or back orders when they're expected to ship. They can check all that. It's typical things that we would normally get phone calls for, right? We want them to be able to find those answers themselves. so that when we do talk to them, we can work more on building relationships with them. Another feature in it that we're excited about, it will just be a simple drag and drop to submit POs. So a lot of the adoption around e-commerce within the wholesale industry is a complaint we hear often is you have to enter in a purchase order twice, right? You have to enter it into your own ERP, and then you have to go to your vendor's website and enter it there. So now what we're allowing is you enter it into your own ERP and print it however you would. You can export it to Excel or you can do it PDF or however it is, and just drag and drop it onto our site, and it'll automatically populate that PO for you. You could even do it handwriting. We're excited for it.
So with a small or mid-sized business, I mean, like you talked about, it's usually a challenge, right? So it's important for the systems to talk to each other, and oftentimes they don't have the systems integrated, so customers are not able to see the inventory or the pricing and all that. Why do you think integration is critical, and how do you think that can help compete better?
Yeah. I think it's very rare that you'll have a company build a tech stack from zero, right? Most of these companies have legacy technologies over the years that they've built their systems around and grown used to using. And so as technology progresses, with AI, or I even think in our own industry, mobile technology is still an untapped resource, right? People are still learning how to best use that and adopt that into their procedures. But I think as technology expands, you need to be able to integrate your new tools with your old ones, right? Otherwise, the efficiencies gained in those new tools are going to be lost in going back and forth between several tools, or lost in missing data because you didn't check one or the other, right? Missed opportunities, stuff like that. So you need to have that integration of the tools as you continue to add on to your own abilities.
Yeah, this is where an ERP integration platform can also come in handy. And how are you finding your customers at Central Conference?
Yeah, trade shows, trade associations, phone books, right? They even exist anymore, but more or less that virtual phone book of just looking in an area and finding who's there and reaching out to them. I mean, it's very that part is very old fashioned. It's very much still pick up the phone, call them, introduce yourself, right? Go visit them, sit down eyeball to eyeball with them, and just start building that relationship. We see it's really hard for customers to add new vendors. There's a lot of setup and everything necessary, so we look to do everything we can to simplify that process, make it more convenient for them. But ultimately, the only way you're going to grow is by building that relationship with them and being patient with it.
Yeah, it's a relationship game. But who's your target customer, right? So who are you going after?
Yeah, mostly industrial distributors, hose houses. That's our main. Like NAHAD is our top opportunity. They're our top trade association that we work with.
And what marketing, in addition to trade shows and events, is there anything else you guys do on the digital side?
Not as much as we should be yet. Once we launch this new website, then my next project is to dive in and build out our full marketing plan and execute it, use as many tools out there as available that I can to automate it. And again, try to keep our costs low and our presence big.
So it's always something new to do every day.
Oh, yeah.
And you have a big family, you have a lot of cousins, a lot of uncles. Do you guys get along with each other, or how does the family dynamics look like?
Yeah, no, we love each other. Like we have my grandfather passed away almost 2 years ago now. My grandmother's still alive, but they really instilled into us a sense of love and support of each other. There's always been some disputes or disagreements, right? But when all is said and done, we love each other, and we realize we can do a lot more together than we could apart, right? It's the big family is much more of an advantage and an asset than it is a liability.
And when you have disputes, what advice, because there are a lot of other family businesses out there, who are watching this, what advice would you give them on how do they handle conflicts?
I have an aunt that probably said it best, and she just said, is this worth, losing a relationship over, right? And when you're working together, it can get stressful. Like, I mean, my uncle Ted, who's my partner now, early on, I remember very vividly when we were first launching on P21 and getting that going, late nights, and we're tired and exhausted, and things aren't working the way you want them to at first. And it's 2 a.m. and we're in the parking lot yelling at each other. But I think it's just keeping that bigger picture, right? Like knowing that this is a group of people that love you, that have your best interests in mind as well as you do theirs, and you can trust them, and it's our time working, like our time spent on our career relative to our life is a huge chunk of our life, right? And I always say you might as well do it with someone you love. Like work with people that you love. I think that you're not always going to love your job, right? But if you uh, love the people you're doing it with, and you're able to be the best in the world at it, you're gonna really enjoy it.
Yeah, enjoy what you do. Yeah, the theme of this podcast is driven. How are you driven as a fifth generation entrepreneur? How are
Yeah,
you
that's
driven?
a great question. I'm driven generationally. Does that make sense? So I'm fifth generation. There's been a lot of advantages that I've enjoyed because of the work that have gone before me, right? And back to my great great grandfather, but even to my uncle Vince, who was able to work with me and be a mentor to me, and provide me an opportunity, and my partner and Uncle Ted, who I work with now, right? Like the work that he had put in to get Central Components to where it was, and I want to do that moving forward. Right, the first two hires I made when I bought Central Components were two of my cousins, and I've got three of them working for it. At one point, my sister had been a teacher and was pregnant and just didn't want to teach anymore, but needed something for her transition into figure out her new career. She didn't want to start a career while she was pregnant. So we were able to hire her and put her on sales. And so it's really that it's looking generationally down the line. I've benefited greatly from the opportunities provided, and now I want to provide similar opportunities.
And pay it forward. Yeah.
Yeah.
What are you most excited about Central Components? What's ahead?
Yeah. There's a lot to be excited about. I think that we've put in a lot of work over the last few years getting our technology where we needed to be with the ERP and the CRM. And there's still a lot more to come there. I think adding the whole new product line and making people aware that we're out there, and who we are and what we can do. It's been a lot of work. Now the new website launching. So I'm excited to start seeing the fruits of all that. I'm really excited to launch this website. I'm excited at other opportunities that may come up, right? To expand into new product lines or new geographies, or really just to find new ways to strengthen our relationships with our current customers, right? Make their lives easier, make them look good. I think when I first hired my two cousins, I remember sitting with them and just kind of setting a vision. And I think it's tough when a company goes to set a mission statement. The likelihood that everyone in that company will feel as passionate about that mission statement as the person that came up with it is very slim. It's almost zero, right? Because how are they going to feel as passionate as the person that came up with it? But I think what I told them is we all have different goals. We all have different missions. And the people we work with, both on our suppliers and our customers, our reps, anyone that we're working with, they're all going to have their own set of goals. They're all going to have their own mission. And I think it's important to realize that the work that you do is necessary to them being able to fulfill that mission and achieve those goals. Just like the work that they do is necessary for you to fulfill your mission and achieve your goals. And so recognizing that and building relationships with that as the foundation, right? I mean, I think that really lays a foundation for love and working relationships that everyone then is going to benefit from and enjoy.
because of how long you've been running this business, you have a lot of domain expertise, and that's actually a big way you differentiate from some of the big box retailers. So, but there's a lot changing in your industry as well. There's a lot of new technology coming in, and there's a lot changing in plumbing
Yeah,
as well.
absolutely.
New products coming in. So, how do you keep yourself updated within the industry?
Yeah. Read webinars. I mean, there's great email newsletters that I'll get every day. There's great web. I mean, this P21 user group, I'm on those webinars, 2, 3 times a week. Let's see, MDM, they've got great webinars I'm on, and really I'll consume as much of that as I can. I'm always looking for new opportunities. I think with AI is like the new big thing. There's a lot of shiny objects out there that look cool, but if you don't know how you're going to implement those, you can kind of get distracted and get lost. I spent about 4 months earlier this year just researching all the different AI tools out there. Right, got really deep into it, and ultimately I came away with I thought two of them would be really good for us. So
Yeah, rightly said. I mean, there are definitely a lot of shiny objects. You have to pick what's right for your business and then disregard, right, or subtract the rest from the core thing. So, Ty, what's the differentiator for a company like Central Components, right? So, why should I come to a Central Components as opposed to going to an Amazon? And how do you compete with Amazon business?
yeah, I mean personal relationships is the biggest thing around that. We try and keep our technology to a level where the convenience factor is on par with what they're seeing. I think the fact that we carry lower overhead, we can be a little more competitive on pricing for them, but ultimately it's the personal relationships, right? You like to work with people that you like. And so I think as long as we can make our customers look good by working with us, right? We can be cost effective and we can be simple and easy. Ultimately, it's the biggest differentiator of those personal relationships with our customers.
And in addition to those relationships, I also think it's the know-how, right? Let's say if I have questions on the product, then you would definitely know better compared to an Amazon.
Yeah, I absolutely. We would definitely know better than an Amazon on it. But most of the time, it's our customers know more than we do about the products that they're buying from us. It's really getting it for them. They can trust us that we'll have it when they need it, right? Having it available to them. Uh, Availability is the best ability, and then making it easy for them to come to us and us just checking in on them, continuing to see what more can we do, right? I think that those bigger boxes, they've got lots of people talking to each other about what more they can do. Where for us, it's very simple. We'll go right to you and see what else do you need? What would make things easier for you? And it's tailored to you specifically and not a nameless mass.
Yeah, more focused on you, the customer.
Yeah, right.
Cool. So, Ty, how can small businesses choose the right technology? Because there's a lot of technology there. How can they know what's right for their business?
Yeah, I think you have to think functionally, right, in terms of what's going to make a better experience for your customer. I mentioned earlier we haven't fully embraced the potential of mobile yet, and so I think it's coming up with how do you fit mobile technology within the current procedure or process of your customer. And then obviously the tools out there for AI, I think AI is going to superpower the mobile and that will then be easier to adopt. I mean, one thing would be like conceptual searches, right? I've never been satisfied with our search bar capability within our website at any place that I've been and even any other websites I go to. But now the large language learning models, yeah, right, what they allow for is a conceptual searching. And so the way that you and I would type in what we're looking for on a website is the way that they're searching. Whereas in the past, for every SKU that you carry, if you carry 40,000 SKUs, you're going to need about 200 tags or terms that you're going to tie to it. And so that's one thing that we're looking at. Again, talking about the PO submission online, having to enter that PO twice on your own system and on your vendor's website, AI is making that easier for our customers now to just drag and drop that. I think recommendation, right? A lot of what powered Amazon is the ability to recommend products. AI now allows us to do that as well, to easily analyze our sales activity across customers and across product and be able to recommend items to customers that maybe they didn't even know that we carried.
No, totally. And I think you also have to learn by doing, and you are bound to make mistakes, right? You don't
Absolutely.
really have to wait for the technology to be right there because AI is still not there. It's evolving
Yeah.
and there's a lot changing and a lot's going to change over the next few years. And you can't wait for the next few years for technology to be really there.
Yeah.
So you start doing it, run experiments, like you said, search is a problem everybody has. And, it also depends on the kind of prompt you're going to give, and it's never going to be perfect, but you just can't wait for it to be perfect. Just have to get there, deep dive, get your feet wet, make mistakes, learn,
That's
and go
so
again.
true. Most of the time, if it doesn't work, it's because you're too early,
Yeah.
right? But now you have that experience and that knowledge that came from that swing and a miss, and
Absolutely.
when everyone else catches up, you'll be ready.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Ty, you talked about relationships and customer relationships being very critical or the key in
yeah,
building the business. How do you build great customer relationships? Or how do you build great relationships?
yeah. I think it's frequent contact. It's really just approaching them with love. I think one great thing about a family business is the family isn't constrained to the business, right? That business extends into customers and vendors and reps and service providers and all of that, and that they're part of that family, right? And so you approach those relationships with your customers from that point of familial love. Same with your vendors, right? We look out for our vendors. We try to understand where they're coming from, and we work closely with them, and they take good care of us in return. And there's definitely a familial love there, right? And it's so that family business extends beyond just the warehouse walls or the company itself, but everyone that this company is doing business with is part of that family.
Yeah, I really love how you reference love. So the more you give, the more you get. And it's not just about the family, it's about your employees, your customers, your vendors, and you just take care of everyone and, always make it a win-win relationship. Yeah.
Yeah, like I said, I think everyone's got their own goals, their own mission, and I think it's really taking the time to understand that with each person. What is that for you? That sets that foundation of love, and it's a great foundation on which to build a business.
So, Ty, you mentioned about Dale Carnegie's How to Win
Yeah.
Friends and Influence People. I mean, I read the book as well, and I enjoyed reading it. But sometimes I think that book is overrated in a way,
Uh-huh.
right?
Okay.
Because, hey, what he talks about, Dale talks about is, hey, if somebody says something or does something, just don't react, just be quiet, right?
Yeah.
What are your thoughts on that? Do you agree with that? Or?
No, I think that's a great question. Again, as I've alluded to many times in this conversation, love is a driving factor in a lot of my actions. And even working in a family business, right? You're not shying away from conflict. That's not always the loving action. Sometimes it is. Sometimes it's let's cool off and move on and try and better understand each other. But oftentimes if someone is not up to the par that they should be at, if they're not near reaching their potential, right? The loving action is to say something and to encourage them or redirect them.
Yeah, you've got to give them feedback. Yeah.
Exactly, yeah.
What do you do outside of work?
Right now I'm coaching football. I love it. This is my fourth season. It's my third season with this team. It's my oldest son is 12 years old in seventh grade. And so this group of boys that I've known, a lot of them since they were 2 or 3 years old, and so at least for the last 3 years. And so that takes up a lot of time. I get really, really into it. I get really competitive with it. I love it. They're a great group of boys and good families, and it's a lot of fun.
It's fun, yeah.
Yeah.
I would like to end with this question, Ty. Yeah. What book are you reading right now?
Yeah. I'm actually reading three books right now. I'm reading A Man in Full by Tom Wolfe. I remember in college, my college roommate was an English major and always had books laying around. And so that one was laying around, and I was always interested in it, but never picked it up. Netflix recently came out with like a mini series on it. So before I watch it, I wanted to finally read the book. So I'm reading that. I'm reading How to Win Friends and Influence People by Dale Carnegie. This is probably the fourth or fifth time I've read it. It's great to go back and it's just, a good reminder always of your behavior and daily interactions. And then the third one I'm reading is called Season of Life by Jeffrey Marks. And it's about Joe Ehrman, who used to play for the Baltimore Colts, was a defensive tackle. And then he became a high school football coach in Baltimore. So the season is upon me. And so I've been reading that and basically about Joe's philosophy of coaching and building boys into men to serve others.
It's been fun chatting with you. Thank you so much for your time, and thanks for joining the Driven Podcast.
Yeah, Karthik, thank you very much. Appreciate you.
Thanks for joining us on this episode of the Driven Podcast. Check out our other episodes for more, and subscribe to be the first to access every new episode.